We're loving and hating and making scenes. Now we just see everything we believe.
Hello, what's going on YouTube fam? This is your boy J Money here, and I'm bringing you guys, well, that deck profile that I promised you guys. We're bringing, some World Chalice Orcust. That is what we are doing today. Man, didn't think I'd get so much support, but, you know, a lot of people want to see a deck profile, and even more of you actually wanted to see other World Chalice builds, but I need to go ahead and test those at the very least on a local level, you know, before I showcase it on the channel. Because, you know, after all, we can't have, you know, something that doesn't work on the channel. So, all that being said, as I've said, this deck is very, very tried and true. And I've done quite a few things with it. So, with that being said, enough of the talk. Let's go ahead and get started with the profile. Alright guys, so I apologize in advance because the lighting might be a bit bad at times. So, I'm still adjusting to it. So, starting off, we got Triple Venus because, you know, before I always used to say if Venus resolves, you automatically win. But in this build, this is actually the first build of World Chalice where I'm not playing through you just Skuldred. So that's still left to be determined. And of course, you gotta have the obligatory Shine Balls because, well, why are you playing this? So yeah, you know, Shine Balls or Vanillas. Of course, there's really no explaining. So. We are still playing 3 World Legacy World Chalices because that is probably the best card in the entire deck now. And 3 leads to Search, the best card in the entire deck. So yeah. And we're gonna actually finish off the effect monsters with just 2 Guard Dragons because, well, it's actually coming a lot more. I don't know. Just protecting yourself from targeting is just really, really strong. So, next, you have to play your Vanillas. You have to, we play Beckon and we play Chosen because you want to make Miko. But, we have a third member of the party. This is actually, I think, probably the best Vanilla to summon off of Unexpected Die because I am playing Dangers in the deck. And so, again, there's quite a few level 3 extenders in the deck. So, level 3 extender plus the level 2 chick equals Miko. So she's been a welcome addition to the deck as a whole. Now we moved off from the Chalice monsters. Now we're going on to some Orcust stuff. We got 2 Nightmare, 2 Harpoor, 1 Symbol Skeleton, and 1 World Wand. Now World Wand just basically enables me to basically play a little bit more. It's basically another Orcust, but it doesn't belong in the Orcust name, so you can't summon it off Harpoor. Now, honestly, I've been thinking about just cutting this entirely and just adding a 3rd Harpoor, because Harpoor is a card you kind of want to draw with all the hand traps floating around, just in the game in general. And Symbol Skeleton, I only play 1 because it's something you really don't want to open. Now, that's the other reason why I want to add a 3rd Harpoor, because, well, you definitely don't want to open this. If you open this, it's okay, because it means you can play a little bit further, but it's something you wouldn't prefer to open. And so, you know, that's something you got to think about. If it's something you really don't want to see, and there's really no way to actually, you know, consistently access this because Summon Sork is gone, then it probably shouldn't be in the deck. So I might just cut it for a 3rd Harpoor, a card I actually want to see in my opening hand. And next we got 2 Phantom Knight monsters. We got Boots and Cloak for our what's it called, the Phantom Knight part of the deck. Now, of course, we gotta have some dangers. We got Nessies, Jax, and Snecks. Now, again, you don't have to play Dangers. You can play anything else that can they're just level 3 bodies that put themselves to the board. You know, you got things like Gallus Starbeast, you have TG Warwolf, you have things like Junk Forward, and, you know, what was it, Psychic Wielder, Psychic Tracer. You know, you have all, you know, Marauding Captain. You have all kinds of ways to put level 3s on the board. They all have their strengths and weaknesses, though. Even the Dangers have their weaknesses. Because, funny story, well, it's actually multiple stories. You know how many times I've actually opened a World Legacy World Chalice in hand with dangers and tried to just summon the first danger just to tribute to normal summon this card, and the World Legacy gets hit out of the hand anyway off the very, very first effect? You know, sometimes it's in this deck in particular, when you have certain things that you want to keep in hand and don't want to discard, it can be a risk. It can be a pretty big risk, and you know, that's what I'm here to tell you. Even though dangers are good, they're not without risk in this deck in particular. There are just some cards in certain situations that, like, let's say World Chalice Guard Dragon, if you're going second against a Sky Striker player, and you need to summon something towards arrows that you want to kind of bait Widowmakers just to try and negate the cards, again, that's just another instance where I don't want that card getting discarded. But on the flip side, there's instances where those dangers will draw me into a World Legacy or will draw me into a Venus. You know, things like that. So, again, they all have their strengths and weaknesses. So that's it for the monsters. Onto the spells, you have to play, you know, cards that stop hand traps. Now, luckily, a lot of people are maining more back row hate because of Mystic Mine. So the number of hand traps might go down. But at the same time, the number of hand traps might still be at an all-time high because Orcust is a thing. So that's something to keep in mind. I only have space for 2 Twin Twisters, so yeah. If you have space for a third, then go for it. I would highly recommend it. For 2 Orcust cards, we have Babel, of course, because you need it, because it allows you to play on the opponent's turn. But we have Einsatz. Okay, a lot of Orcust players do not like this card, and I didn't at first. But we're in a very control-heavy format. This is one of those formats to where, you know, you're trying to decks now want to control the game over the course of, I don't know, more than 3 turns and all that stuff. And, you know, with decks like that, like Striker, you know, Altergeist are doing good again, you know, Guru, things like that. Again, Manhunt's a card, guys. So you need to be able to play the grind game. This right here allows you to play the grind game, because a lot of times if you're consistently banishing Symbol Skeleton for Dingirsu and all that, you know, sometimes you want to send cards to the graveyard. You don't want to always depend on its effect to keep reattaching your cards, because a lot of times that Symbol Skeleton is the only thing you got left in your graveyard. This essentially just lets you add fuel to the grave for free. So again, guys, you need to be prepared to play a potential grind game when it comes to a lot of these matchups. Like, it's out of the question. You have to play a grind game. So that's it for that. Now we got staples. We got Foolish, Emergency Teleport, Unexpected Die. Now, surprise, surprise, somehow I didn't even have this in the deck. So I did find space for it. I had 2 Symbol Skeletons on the deck, and I decided to take one out and throw in Foolish Burial, because it can also send Boots to the grave to get Shade Brigandine, which is an extender. It's an M-Duck, or just anything else that I may need at the point in time. So Foolish Burial, very good. Monster Reborn, Succession, they're just more extender cards, more reborn cards. No questions asked. They allow you to just play through more things. And we actually have quite a few trap cards. We got Shade Brigandine, of course. I mean, I don't even know why I consider this a trap card. It's basically a spell card. We got 2 Fog Blades, 1 Orcust Crescendo, or primarily known as Orchestrated Climax, and a War Legacy Sorrow. So 2 counter traps and 2 searchable Fog Blades and all this. So looking at this, a lot of players are probably going to ask, you know, regarding the consistency of this deck, because you're seeing so many of these. And let me tell you, I'm not playing a 40-card deck. This deck right here, actually, I think any Orcust build in general is really good at 50-something cards. This is a 51-card deck, guys. This is how you do not brick. You may have a little bit more Garnets in your deck, but when you factor in that you're increasing your deck count but just adding more extenders, you're basically keeping the ratio of monsters that you can just summon to the field, and at the same time you are, in fact, you're offsetting your Garnets. You're greatly reducing your chances of opening multiples. Now, opening one is okay. Opening one is just fine, but you don't want to see more than one in your opening hand. And that's what increasing your deck size to like about 50 cards offers. It offers you not to do that. So yeah, that's it for the main deck, guys. 51 cards. Really, really strong. So we're going to go with the extra deck. We got 2 Induct because it's important. Sometimes you want to do your old World Chalice combo where you would make Induct and link Induct and something else into this Ib right here. And then sit here and link the Ib and the Lee you summon from hand into Aurum, and then you make Boral Savage. You have those 2 negates I was telling you about in that first video off Savage. And of course you have the Aurum. Again, I want to make Beat Cup. I want space for it, but I don't know if I have it. Now if somebody else can make space for Beat Cup, then that'd be great. And of course, our new favorite extra deck monster, that's legal, of course, Ib the World Chalice Miko, because she does way too much for the deck. Again, she's good in other decks, but she's absolutely great and just made for World Chalice decks. I mean, hence the name, of course. Next, we got Nightmares. We got Mermaid, Cerberus, and Phoenix. Phoenix is basically the best one because, well, back row decks. Longirsu. And we got 2 Galateas. 2 Galateas and Longirsu. And we have Orcust Dingirsu, or Dingirsu, the Orcust of the Evening Star, to round up our Orcust cards. In the last 3, we got, Rusty, we have Boral Savage Dragon, and to round it off, we have Boral Sword Dragon. Now, this Boral Sword Dragon, honestly, it should be Avermax. It really should, but the main issue with Avermax is that it's not a dark monster. Because it's not a dark monster, I find myself not making Avermax, making it rarely, if at all. Because I'm using a lot of Orcust effects, and you generally want to summon those powerhouse cards last and all that. So that's the conundrum I've been having with Avermax, and I really wanted the Avermax because I like the lightning rod effect. I like to be, to be able to have that be the only thing you're swinging at, and it can be targeted. It takes a card with them, and then it does a lot of damage too. It's its own honest, just like the Boral Sword Dragon itself, but unfortunately, Avermax is a light, so we have to play Boral Sword Dragon because it's an honest. You can sub Boral alone, it's fine. This deck has 0 problems OTKing. So that's it for the deck, guys. No side deck. A couple of things to note. I think, hold on. Gotta think about it right quick. Oh yeah, yeah, I've said in the last video, I hinted at it a little bit with this Aurum. Again, there's been a lot of situations where you would open your best card being your World Legacy World Chalice, and you would open, let's say, a few dangers in your hand and things like that. But the problem is you can't make Aurum because it takes 2 World Chalice monsters, so a lot of times I just really wish I had that Beat Cop. Had a Beat Cop or a Lanphalinkus, whatever you want to call it. Any one of those would do. Any one of those would be just fine as long as I had 2 downward pointing arrows. So if you don't have space for the Boral Sword, again, you don't need the Boral. You don't need Boral Sword, you don't even need Boral Load. So for those who want to have more startup plays, who want to be able to get off the ground a lot easier, feel free to play Beat Cup if you don't have the funds for Boral Sword, and you'll be just fine. So that's it for the deck profile, guys. Let me know what your opinions on it are. Again, it's 51 cards because you are objectively playing quite a few Garnets in your deck, and you want to offset it. You don't want to draw into any of them, but if you draw into one, you're good. Again, same thing with the 8 negate combo. They're still good drawing any of these. In fact, if you draw this, you actually have 9 because you get the Babel and you have your other counter trap. Or if you open Babel, you can just set this off of Galatea. So that's another way you can have 9. So that's really, really stupid. But anyway, guys, I want to hear your thoughts and give me feedback down in the comments below. And yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. This is J Money, and I am signing out.
Through the wastelands, through the highways, and